Hi everyone, welcome to Learn English with Miss. In today's video, we will read excerpts of a novel together. The Joy Luck Club, Chapter 2, Jing-Mei Wu, Part 3. And I finally dropped one bag after the other when my hands began to bleed and became too slippery to hold onto anything. Along the way, I saw others had done the same, gradually given up hope. It was like a pathway inlaid with treasures that grew in value along the way, bolts of fine fabric and books, paintings of ancestors and carpenters' tools, until one could see cages of ducklings now quiet with thirst, and later still, silver urns lying in the road, where people had been too tired to carry them for any kind of future hope. By the time I arrived in Chungking, I had lost everything except for three fancy silk dresses, which I wore one on top of the other. What do you mean by everything? I gasped at the end. I was stunned to realize the story had been true all along. What happened to the babies? She didn't even pause to think. She simply said in a way that made it clear there was no more to the story. Your father is not my first husband. You are not those babies. When I arrived at the Sue's house, where the Joy Luck Club is meeting tonight, the first person I see is my father. There she is, never on time, he announces. And it's true. Everybody's already here. Seven family friends in their 60s and 70s. They look up and laugh at me. Always tardy, a child still at 36. I'm shaking, trying to hold something inside. The last time I saw them at the funeral, I had broken down and cried big, gulping sobs. They must wonder now how someone like me can take my mother's place. A friend once told me that my mother and I were alike, that we had the same wispy hand gestures and the same girlish laugh and sideways look. When I shyly told my mother this, she seemed insulted and said, "You don't even know little percent of me. How can you be me?" And she's right. How can I be my mother at Joy Luck? Auntie, uncle, I say repeatedly, nodding at each person there. I have always called these old family friends auntie and uncle, and then I walk over and stand next to my father. He's looking at the Zhang's pictures from their recent China trip. Look at that, he says politely, pointing to a photo of the Zhang's tour group standing on wide slab steps. There is nothing in this picture that shows it was taken in China rather than San Francisco, or any other city for that matter. But my father doesn't seem to be looking at the picture anyway. It's as though everything were the same to him. Nothing stands out. He has always been politely indifferent. But what's the Chinese word that means indifferent because you can't see any differences? That's how troubled I think he is by my mother's death. Will you look at that? He says, pointing to another nondescript picture. The Sue's house feels heavy with greasy odors. Too many Chinese meals cooked in a too small kitchen. Too many once fragrant smells compressed onto a thin layer of invisible grease. I remember how my mother used to go into other people's houses and restaurants and wrinkle her nose, then whisper very loudly, "I can see and feel the stickiness with my nose." I have not been to the Sue's house in many years, but the living room is exactly the same as I remember it. When Auntie Ann May and Uncle George moved to the Sunset District from Chinatown 25 years ago, they bought new furniture. It's all there, still looking mostly new under yellowed plastic. The same turquoise couch shaped in a semicircle of nubby tweed. The colonial end tables made out of heavy maple, a lamp of fake cracked porcelain, only the scroll length calendar, free from the Bank of Canton, changes every year. I remember this stuff because when we were children, Auntie Anne May didn't let us touch any of her new furniture except through the clear plastic coverings. On Joy Luck nights, my parents brought me to the zoos. Since I was the guest, I had to take care of all the younger children. So many children, it seemed as if there were always one baby who was crying from having bumped its head on a table leg. You are responsible, said my mother, which meant I was in trouble if anything was spilled, burned, lost, broken, or dirty. I was responsible no matter who did it. She and Auntie Anne May were dressed up in funny Chinese dresses with stiff stand up collars and blooming branches of embroidered silk sewn over their breasts. These clothes were too fancy for real Chinese people, I thought, and too strange for American parties. In those days, before my mother told me her Quaylin story, I imagined Joy Luck was a shameful Chinese costume, like the secret gathering of the Ku Klux Klan or the tom tom dances of TV Indians preparing for war. But tonight there's no mystery. The Joy Luck aunties were all wearing slacks, bright print blouses, and different versions of sturdy walking shoes. We are all seated around the dining room table under a lamp that looks like a Spanish candelabra. Uncle George puts on his bifocals and starts the meeting by reading the minutes. Our capital account is $24,825, or about $6,206 a couple, $3,103 per person. We sold Subaru for a loss at 6 3/4. We sold Subaru for a loss at 6 3/4. We bought 100 shares of Smith International at 7. Our thanks to Lindo and Tin Zhang for the goodies. The red bean soup was especially delicious. The March meeting had to be canceled until further notice. We were sorry to have to bid a fond farewell to our dear friend Sui Yuan and extended our sympathy to the Canning Wu family. Respectfully submitted, George Su, President and Secretary.